Video games are filled with choices, and most of them are presented to you, either in a dialogue box or with some visual representation. You're given the opportunity to go one direction or the other, but some of them you do not know about. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 secret choices you didn't know you had in video games. At number 10, the fortune teller is useful for once. Fallout 4 isn't one of those games with a whole lot of satisfying choices to make, but it can surprise you sometimes. There are some hidden little interactions and optional decisions that most people playing the game are not going to see, like Mama Murphy. Pretty much everybody's going to run into this character. It's an old lady that claims to see the future in the Museum of Freedom with Preston Garvey. Something pretty much everybody's going to see at least once, and after you rescue her, she becomes a settler in your first town. Most people probably see her around, never really interact with her, and if they do, they see the part where she'll give you fortune in return for drugs. Maybe do it once and just assume that it's a pointless novelty, something that doesn't matter. The little slice of life thing for all of the Fallout 4 players. But actually, some of her predictions unlock new options in a few quests. Like in the quest where you save Nick Valentine in a vault, if you have that quest called Unlikely Valentine, and you talk to Mama Murphy, she'll say some cryptic gibberish that sounds completely worthless.
When you meet the fat man and the angry woman, tell them to remember the quarry and Lily June on the rocks, and they'll let you and your friend pass.
But guess what? It's not completely worthless. If you repeat her message to the guy that ambushes you when you're leaving the vault, he will actually let you pass without getting into a fight.
Remember the quarry. Lily June on the rocks. Ring any bells?
How the hell did you know about that? Okay, you two can go. You got until the count of 10. Then I don't care what happened back in the old days. You're dead.
And seriously, the only way to bypass this encounter is talking to this fortune teller. It's not major. I mean, killing this guy isn't that hard, but it's an obscure little choice that stands out. You didn't know you had it. In fact, you thought you were just dealing with some annoying old lady who jibber-jabbers a lot for drugs. And, you know, this kind of stuff usually doesn't do anything in video games. The last place I'd expect the developers to start getting clever like this is Fallout 4, but it's here and it works, and I gotta admit, I'm impressed. At number 9, it's Dragon's Dogma 2's defeating the Talos. Near the end of the game, you encounter this gigantic walking statue called the Talos, or the Gigantus. I respect the clownish nature, but I'll stick with Talos for now. So you encounter this thing, it just marches through this canyon, and to beat it, you have to use giant crossbows and climb on top of it and attack its weak point, blah, 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 you know. But you don't actually have to kill it. Eventually, if it progresses too far, it just falls into a lava flow and kills itself. There's nothing to suggest that you're making some kind of decision at this point, but it actually matters whether you killed the Talos in the valley or if it died on its own. There is no way you could possibly guess why all this stuff is going down, but even though there's no way anyone would know, they're actually making a choice in this mission. Whatever you did comes back in the Unmoored world, you know, the secret ending part of the game, where they finally title Dragon's Dogma 2, which is a lot harder to say than you could possibly imagine. Editing has saved you having to hear me say those words incorrectly about 3 times. But I'm skimming over a lot here, and I'm getting distracted by my own lack of ability to speak. There is kind of too much to go into here. The important takeaway is that these are special dragon bosses. They're all over the place. You gotta kill them now, and if you manage to defeat the Talos, then at least one of these dragon battles is gonna be a lot easier. If the giant statue man died on its own, you have to just fight these dragons on your own, but if you killed it, the entire segment completely changes. Your main pawn gets absorbed into the giant's eye, and it gets into a whole big Godzilla battle. They can kill the dragon entirely on their own, and the entire cutscene fight is pretty amusing. I mean, it's a giant monster throwdown in the middle of this fantasy RPG, and it's much easier to miss out on than you might think. There are tons of little random choices like this all over Dragon's Dogma 2. They don't tell you jack squat most of the time. Like, you're generally getting just a few pieces of dialogue, but with this, you get one of the longer, more involved cutscenes, like, in the whole game. It's crazy. And number 8 is Dead Rising Deluxe, Sparing the Psycho. One of the most frustrating Psycho encounters in Dead Rising is the Hall family. Not 1, not 2, but 3 tough SOBs with long-range rifles who are ready, willing, and excited to make your life a living hell. If you don't come into this fight prepared, it's going to suck. So I don't blame anybody for just hacking these guys to pieces without a second thought. They're just that annoying to have to deal with. If you're feeling real generous, though, the Deluxe Edition Remaster lets you do something the original game did not, which lets you spare one of the Hall brothers. So when you first encounter these guys, there's a dad who wants to shoot everyone and everything they see, a brother who's all in on it, and another brother who's a little reluctant.
But Daddy, he ain't no zombie. He's just a man.
Thomas!
That's Thomas Hall. He's the easiest of the psychos to take down normally, so it's tempting to go after him first. But if you actually watch him, he seems like the one who doesn't really want to be a part of this. I am pretty sure he still shoots at you, though. But if you're feeling kind, you can make the choice of sparing him. The only way to do it is to kill the other two first, and then when you confront him, he gives up and apologizes. You can't take him back to the security room with you. He refuses to go, but he will stop attacking. That at least gives him the possibility of surviving.
I just thought Daddy and Jack liked to hunt for sport. When all this happened, they became so excited. They said they'd been waiting for a day like this.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Guess I deserve this. We shot at you first, after all.
I could take you somewhere safe if you want.
I'm staying here with my brother and Daddy. I can't just leave them behind like this.
Keep in mind, this was not an option in the original game. You had to kill all of them, even if you felt sorry for this kid. So it's easy to assume things will play out the same way in the remake, but the devs actually give you the chance to do something merciful for whatever that's worth. And number 7 is Hollow Knight, crushing one of the Watchers. Another game where a lot of unexpected little choices are there, many of which don't matter a lot, but they give the world some personality. This is kind of like that. It's a way to make a somewhat tricky mini-boss easier, but mostly I'm just putting it here because I forgot it was possible. In the Watcher's Spire, there's a fight with 6 knights near the top of the tower. It's not an impossible fight by any means, but 6 guys isn't exactly easy, and there's a hidden method to even the odds, I guess, is the right way to say it. In the room directly before the actual boss area, you can jump up and slash to reveal a breakable wall. And inside the wall is a rope holding up a chandelier. Cut it with a few attacks, and it'll fall into the room and kill, well, one of the Watcher Knights, but that's better than nothing. Most of the time, these kinds of traps aren't that hard to suss out. Games will telegraph tricks like this to make bosses easier. Pretty hard, like they throw it out there, but this was pretty well hidden actually. There's nothing about this little room that suggests there's a breakable ceiling, and it's so high that players exploring this place for the first time will, they may not even have the abilities required to get up there. It's kind of a little pointless, like you're killing only 1 out of the 6 here, but it's a cool secret either way. It makes it a little bit easier. You understand why I was hesitant to say even the odds here. It doesn't really even the odds, but I guess it's not bad either. It does make it less hard a bit. And number 6 is saving the Normandy crew in Mass Effect 2. I admit, everyone knows about this one, but if you were playing Mass Effect 2 back when it came out, you probably screwed this choice up, and it was probably a real slap in the face. Like, how are we supposed to know there's a secret time limit on this? You know how most RPGs go. You get right up to the point of no return, and that's when you go and you do all your side quests. That's how almost every RPG works. But Mass Effect 2 pulls this nasty trick on you. See, right before the end, the majority of your ship's crew gets kidnapped by the bad guys. Characters in the game tell you that you need to rescue them in a hurry, but it's an RPG. They're always telling you time is of the essence in an RPG, and time is never of the essence. Remember in Final Fantasy XVI when the world was ending? The world didn't end if you didn't progress. If you'd have sat your happy ass down, that would have been that. The world never would have ended. And it's basically like that in every RPG. The ticking clock it's an illusion. But not in Mass Effect 2. If you decide to wait and not rush to complete the suicide mission, then by the time you actually reach the collector base and attempt to rescue your crew, it's too late. They've all been converted into biomass, and they are dead. And that's just because you decided to do the side quests at the end of the game. What makes this all the more frustrating is that the one thing the game does make extremely clear is that you need to complete all your companion side quests so that they're loyal to you, so that they have the best chances possible to complete the suicide mission. But if you haven't done most of them by the time the crew gets caught, you don't have enough time to complete the side quests. You only have enough time to do Legion's companion mission, which can only be done after everyone gets taken. So it's easy to get into a situation where your entire crew just dies or most of your companions die. It sucks. And it's all because they spring this invisible choice on you right before the final mission. You have to respect them for actually making time matter for once in an RPG, but the way they went about doing it was not exactly ideal. And number 5 is Stellar Blade, the secret ending choices. If you've got an action RPG anymore, you better go in expecting there's some kind of secret ending. So many games have them now, but usually they're fairly forgiving with how they're implemented. They tend to be obscure, but the process of unlocking them is usually pretty obvious. You do a bonus mission to find some secret information, you find a hidden area, or some shit like that. With Stellar Blade, the decision making is obscured and it's easy to miss, and it makes no sense leading up to the final point of no return. Which also isn't obvious. It's one of those choices where the game does not tell you what choice you're making or even how it came to whatever conclusion it was coming to. All you get is this little meter at the corner that slowly fills up as you complete quests or find information about the world. There's no clues about what the bar is or what it's supposed to represent, and it fills so slow that it's almost not possible to tell that it is filling up. You basically have to ignore it for large swaths of time in order for it to look like it's even different, but if you fill it up before the point of no return, you unlock the true ending where you still fight Lily, but she doesn't die at the end. The actual endgame choice you have to make between siding with Lily or Adam is pretty clear, but how they shake out with that meter is confusing and unclear. Especially because by the time you actually get to that choice, it's far too late to go back and fill up the meter. You have to go through the entire final mission before you get the choice, which you may not even realize has a third option.
Lily, are you all right? Eve! I thought I'd be left alone.
At number 4 is Silent Hill 2's endings. Another one where pretty much everyone knows it by now, but if you're somehow unaware, I'll explain it real quick. In Silent Hill 2, the standard game has 3 different endings, which are not determined by obvious choices you make, but they're meant to represent the unconscious decisions that the player, ended up making without knowing. The game gives you no information about how these endings are actually determined. They only provide some vague clues in a New Game Plus, but of course at this point players have fully mapped out how it all works. The first time through, there's 3 endings. Leave, where James leaves Silent Hill. Maria, where he chooses to stay with Maria. And In Water, where he drives his car off a pier. These endings are obtained through a scoring system where the game keeps a tally of certain actions related to each ending. So you get the Leave ending, for example, by having James' health topped up all the time and actively try to rush through the game without exploring and instead just beelining for the hospital. To get the In Water ending, you have to do things that make James seem more depressed, like examine Angela's knife in your inventory, leave your health low instead of healing yourself right away, that kind of thing. The Maria one's the toughest one to get. It involves doing things for Maria, like spending time near her and not bumping into her or letting her take damage, that kind of stuff. Like I said, anyone who knows anything about Silent Hill at this point has at least a broad understanding of how this works, but it's all complex and vague enough that unless you really plan out what you're doing, it's still hard to know exactly what ending you're going to get. At number 3 is Chrono Trigger, The Trial, one of the original invisible choices in gaming. The Trial is an all-time classic event that really puts the player to task for everything they did at the start of the game. It's such a simple idea, but it's executed to perfection here. Here's the deal. After the first section of the game, Chrono is put on trial for abducting the princess. During the trial, the game calls back to multiple seemingly pointless events from the start of the game in the Millennium Fair. All these events were actually secret tests of character, and if you played through the opening like your typical RPG protagonist, then you will fail this test with flying colors. Doing stuff like eating the old man's lunch and not bothering to rescue the little girl's cat will make the jurors think you're guilty, but if you do good deeds, you're more likely to telegraph innocence, I guess the right way to say it. Even simple stuff that wouldn't seem to matter, like talking to Marl first after knocking her over at the start and not moving when she goes to the candy booth, all count towards your innocence or guilt. I'd say this is all simple stuff that we've all moved past, but even in 2024, this level of reactivity isn't really seen that much or used in such a novel way. Ultimately, whether you're guilty or not doesn't really matter. You still have to break out of prison because they still put you in prison. But the first time going through the trial is amazing. Watching the game call out all your generic RPG protagonist misdeeds like selling a party member's stuff, skipping along, and eating all the food you find lying around. It's the only time anything like this happens in the game, but there's a reason why we're still talking about it. At number 2, Resident Evil Revelations 2. Wait, there's a choice? So you're telling me there's a choice? They could have said something, though. I mean, they didn't tell you there's a choice. The ending to Revelations 2 is baffling. Because for one thing, that there even is a choice at the end. Resident Evil games generally don't do that. And for another thing, the actual choice is almost impossible to figure out unless you just go online and look up what you're supposed to do. I have to imagine that most people who played it the first time, when they beat the game, they got the bad ending and they were left scratched in their head like, wait, this isn't how Resident Evil games end. Yeah, they're horror games where they pretty much universally have happy endings where the good guys escape. The zombie apocalypse couldn't beat them. Not this time, not any time. There doesn't even appear to be anything else to do at the end, though. There's no explicit choices. It just seems like that's just the end. But nope, there is a good ending, but to get it, you have to do something you'd never even imagine is possible. What the game wants you to do is, in the middle of a QTE, switch characters. That's how you get the good ending. It's not telegraphed or explained anywhere unless you explicitly sit and wait on the QTE for a little while, and then the option to switch pops up. The thing is, QTEs have trained us to act quickly, otherwise you die, and that's how these things work, so nobody could possibly know that you wait. Sometimes, though, a hidden choice can be satisfying, and sometimes they're just annoying. This is annoying. And finally, at number 1, Spec Ops: The Line's Shooting of the Rope. Let's end it with a classic. Near the end of the meta-commentary on military shooters, disguised as a game, Spec Ops: The Line, you're given a brutal choice. There are 2 men hanging by a rope, and you're forced to choose which one lives and which one dies. One's a soldier, the other a civilian. And if you don't kill one of them, nearby snipers will kill both. So you have to make a decision, and trying to shoot the snipers doesn't work, by the way. They'll immediately turn and shoot both hanging men. So yeah, you can't opt out of this choice. It seems like you're stuck, actually, and you have to do what the voice over the radio is saying, but there is actually a third unmentioned option. Shoot the rope. If you shoot the rope, you can free both men, and this unexpected move will confuse the snipers, which gives you enough time to take them out. It still requires speed to be able to pull it off, but it is possible to take the third option here and get away with it. It's not something you see in most games. Most of the time, when they give you a binary choice like this, you're stuck with it, and any attempt to go your own way just doesn't work. But this game actually acknowledges the quick thinking, even if it's ultimately a pointless gesture, because if you play the game, you know things don't work out great, regardless, in Spec Ops: The Line. But at least they let you be the good guy once in a while.
Kill the prisoner.
No!
I will not be disobeyed, Captain. Attack.
We're clear.
I didn't know you were the insubordinate type, Captain.
Let's get moving. Walker.
And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.